President-elect Donald Trump has been impeached twice, indicted 4 times. He's been found liable for civil fraud, defamation, and sexual abuse. As a felon, he can't possess a firearm, can't serve on a jury, and in some cases, he can't hold public office, with the exception of, apparently, President of the United States. And yet, more than 74 million Americans voted for him to return to the hallowed Oval Office. Joining me now is author and NBC News presidential historian Michael Beschloss. Michael, we've had so many conversations, you and I.
Yes,
I will say this is a palpable loss for so many Americans. I'm hearing from folks how scared they are, how angry they are. I feel the same way.
Well, a lot of people feel that way, and I think we've got a big test of our system right now, which is, you know, I wish I could tell you that this is a case in which Donald Trump will be checked by Democrats in the House and Senate or by the Supreme Court or by other, you know, important forces in American society. Those things are really in doubt. You know, the Supreme Court, as you have discussed so eloquently on this show, has given him presidential immunity. So fear of criminal prosecution is not going to be something that is there, and that is unlike every single other president who has served before Donald Trump. As far as Congress is concerned, the Senate is going to be very strong for the Republicans, stronger than many people expected. Plus, many people expected the Democrats to have at least a limited control of the House. At best, that is in jeopardy as we speak. So, you know, what are the forces that can provide some constraint? The biggest one is the American people. Harry Truman once said the highest, most powerful job in America is not president, but citizen. Think of the number of times in American history that people peacefully protesting, marching, speaking out were able to bring about change.
Michael, historically, we've seen how badly things result for autocrats, dictators, but we've seen the suffering that comes along the way. The people that are the direct victims of it, the collateral damage sometimes of those types of governing kind of bodies. I mean, can you frame it a little bit for us, Michael, maybe with some optimism or some hope that there's something to be learned? You just touched upon it briefly for a second there about just the good trouble that we've heard we could get into, right? The way that our voices can be heard, because a lot of people feel disenfranchised, right? 70-something million voters said no to him, and yet they are now being told you still have a voice.
But that still leaves a group, you know, what percentage voted for democracy on Tuesday and said that they did not want a dictator on day one or the kind of authoritarianism that Donald Trump has talked about. Are those people going to be completely ignored? I don't think history suggests that they are. And the other thing is, you know, let's go back to 1776. What was the whole point of this revolution in the first place? It was to revolt against a petty authoritarian tyrant, the King of England, and try to devise a system that allowed us to govern ourselves. This is what we've done. And, you know, you were asking me, are there examples in American history that we can look to what happens when you have a president who's a tyrant? There are almost none. Because through all of American history, Americans have felt that it was so important that a president be restrained, not use every single lever of power available, not use the Defense Department and the Justice Department to go after his political enemies. That's a tradition that's almost 2.5 centuries strong. I can't believe that it will suddenly disappear, even though half the electorate voted for that tradition on Tuesday.
How important then is it, Michael, especially based upon your incredible ability to kind of look back and to kind of bring the perspective to the present time? How important is it then for people to realize that there's still strength in a collective voice of discontent, a collective voice of saying we're not going to live under the yoke of this, and to force, even on a local and a state level, the politicians and the people that are supposed to represent them to make them be held accountable for doing things that are not going to be a reflection of what the voters want?
Well, perfect example would be, how was Donald Trump held back when he tried to shatter Obamacare 2 years into his presidency. That was from people marching and going to town meetings and things that were written by journalists. That's the way our system works. But as much as I say it's going to be harder because of the Supreme Court and the Congress and the atmosphere right now, you have to be an optimist when you look at American history, because what has ruled has been democracy and our opposition to tyrants. I can't imagine that, especially in the wake of an election on Tuesday, that's just going to disappear.